Hello, good afternoon, good evening. I'm Laura Brzezinski, and I am your host today on And Now the Good News, because there's so much news out there that's not good, and we really need to feature more of the good news that is happening around the planet. And our story starts today with, let's see if I have that, YouTuber Mr. Beast. Mr. Beast is the world's most influential YouTuber, and he has accomplished an incredible feat of crowdfunding after leading dozens of the world's top influencers to drive donations and volunteering toward the goal of cleaning up oceans. 34 million pounds of trash and plastic have been removed from oceans and rivers all across the globe, with each dollar donated verified by an independent third party as going directly towards removing 1 pound of trash. And if you see in this picture, the other influencer is Mark Rober. These two paired up and partnering with Ocean Conservancy and the Ocean Cleanup, they were able to bring awareness and hundreds of voices with large followers on social media to channel their channels for the good of the ocean. Now, this project started in January of 2022 when they both announced that they had actually raised, sorry, I guess it began earlier than that, but that's when they announced they had raised 30 million, and that's when the Mammoth Cleanup Project began. So most of that money went to hiring organizers, training the volunteers, equipping them with supplies, hiring specialist boats, and even robots. And on July 16th, Mr. Beast uploaded a video announcing the trash removal was a success. And some of the participation figures were staggering. Fundraising, volunteering, awareness raising, and various forms of digital content like videos and video games from over 200 countries and territories all work to turn the internet's gaze to Team C's website, where people could donate and select how many pounds of trash they wanted removed. And their content generated 1.3 billion views, cumulative across 40,000 social media channels. And when the month of cleanup began, 170,000 people from dozens of countries volunteered. So that, I think, is phenomenal. And the rather positive message is that the internet, like all human endeavors, can be channeled towards good causes. It's just a question of getting the word out. Awesome. Thank you, guys, putting your social media networks together for good, taking care of our oceans. And another one is, again, about cleaning up trash from waterways. This time, this is a river out in, or excuse me, a lake Tizay. I should have figured out how to spell it. Tizza in southern Hungary, where another edition of the Pet Cup was held to great success. This competition is sponsored by local and large businesses alike, and they saw hardy pet pirates plundering the high seas of the country's artificial lake in search of treasure, plastic waste. Short for polyethylene terephthalate, or the most commonly used plastic for bottles and containers, such as we know as PET. This Pet Cup started in 2013 as a way to inspire residents to keep the lake clean, and has since been held at other waterways as well. And I think this is so fun, right? Like, who wouldn't want to be involved in this, doing a good cause? And it's fun. And their pirate captains crewed makeshift barges in search of trash, which when seen in a flotilla seems reminiscent of the Mad Max and Road Warrior films, only on water rather than a highway. And this year's edition saw over 20,000 pounds of trash pulled from the lake by various teams, with the winner coming from a MBH Bank team. Awesome. Thank you. Inspiring and fun. And let's see, what's up next? Oh, so this, I so appreciate this. Coldplay is taking some of the plastic from the ocean cleanup and turning it into an album. So they have a new album coming out October 4th called Moon Music. And in keeping with both the rise in consciousness, consumerism, and the vinyl revival, there's a limited edition record made using plastic from Rio Las Vacas in Guatemala. I can't speak today. Guatemala. Sorry. The eco-conscious band has collaborated with the Dutch nonprofit, the Ocean Cleanup, who we were talking about earlier, who have a mission to rid oceans and waterways of plastic. Most of their publicized work takes place around the Great Pacific Garbage Patch in the Pacific Ocean. However, the organization is also deeply active in the world's river systems, deploying floating barricades and special boats to trap and collect dumped plastics and prevent them from entering oceans in the first place. I love it. Somebody's starting upstream. We need to start up further upstream and not let the plastic get in the river or the ocean in the first place. However, they're getting there. Their Interceptor 006 floating barricade system was deployed in the Rio Las Vacas in 2023 to stop plastic emissions into the Gulf of Honduras. Their Interceptor 006 floating barricade system made significant impact and captured large quantities of plastic, which has now been sorted, blended, tested, and used to manufacture Coldplay's limited edition physical release, stated the Ocean Cleanup. How awesome! We're doing the cleanup and we're turning it into fun projects, but also, again, Coldplay is bringing awareness to this through all of their networks they're following. Let's see. Where is it? The final product dubbed the Notebook edition LP consists of 70% river plastic intercepted by the Ocean Cleanup and 30% recycled waste plastic bottles from other sources. And Coldplay provides financial support for the nonprofit's cleaning operation. It sponsors Interception 005 in the Klang River, Malaysia, and shared in the Ocean Cleanup's mission with millions of their fans during their record-breaking Music of the Spheres tour. The Ocean Cleanup founder, Boyan Slat, says Coldplay is an incredible partner for us, and I'm thrilled that our plastic catch has helped bring Moon Music to life. And ensuring the plastic we catch never re-enters the marine environment is essential to our mission, and I'm excited to see how we'll continue innovating with Coldplay and our other partners to rid the oceans of plastic together. And again, Coldplay's Moon Music album is set for release on October 4th. So one more cleanup story before we head to a commercial. However, this is involving mushrooms on land. Mushrooms help turn toxic brownfields into blooming meadows. So there is an environmental toxicologist in California who is cleaning up areas contaminated with heavy metals or other pollutants using fungi and native plants in a win-win for nature. Where once toxic soils and industrial lots sat bare or weed-ridden, there are now flowering meadows of plants and mushrooms frequented by birds and pollinators. And it's thanks to Danielle Stevenson, founder of DIY Fungi. The 37-year-old ecologist from UC Riverside recently spoke with Yale Press about her ongoing work restoring brownfields, a term that describes a contaminated environment abandoned by industrial extraction or transportation operations. A brownfield can be an old railway yard, the grounds of an abandoned oil refinery, but the uniting factor is the presence, of a toxic contaminant, whether it's a petrochemical, heavy metal, or something else. Now, she had read studies about mushrooms growing around the Chernobyl nuclear plant, and then came to understand further through her work that fungi are an extraordinarily resilient species of life that consume carbon. And even though petroleum products are toxic to plants, to mushrooms, they're essentially kind of carbon. How cool is that? In fact, the mushrooms break down several categories of toxic waste with the same enzymes they use to consume a dead tree. They can also eat plastic and other things made out of oil, like agrochemicals. At the Los Angeles rail yard, as part of a pilot project, Stevenson and colleagues planted a variety of native grass and flower species alongside dead wood that would incubate specific fungi species called arbuscular mycorrhizal fungi. I probably said that wrong too, which assists plants in extracting heavy metals like lead and arsenic from the soil. So in 3 months, they saw more than a 50% reduction in all pollutants, and by 12 months, they were pretty much non-detectable, Stevenson told Yale 365. And normally, decontaminating soil like this, it involves bringing in a bulldozer, digging it all up for transportation to a landfill. But this method's really expensive, but it's also dangerous because the contaminated material can scatter on the winds or fall out of the back of the trucks carting it away. By contrast, the plants draw the toxic metals and they can be harvested and incinerated down to a small pile of ash before a cheap transportation to a hazardous waste facility. So this is still new, and this technique, which Stevenson says has more scaling issues and issues with approval from regulators. It's officially known as bioremediation, and so it's still in process. And her belief, people who live in places impacted by pollution need to have a say in how their neighborhood is being cleaned up, and we need to empower them with the tools to do this. And I think this is a fabulous tool, right? It's so gentle, path of least resistance. Let's just plant and then harvest a small and inexpensive way after. All right, so we are going to go take a commercial break. If I can locate my commercials, I'm new here. We have a conference coming up in Mexico that I want to share with you. If I can now find it, I had it earlier. Where'd it go? There it is. All right, I'll be right back. Don't go away, because we have some really fun stories about some amazing dogs and some amazing heroes of the week.
Time waits for no one. It's true. Regular registration for Celebrating Our Soul has closed. Fear not. Late registration is available. While there are limited seats, there is room for you if you register now. Go to padntg.com and register, and you will experience phenomenal live music, unique masterclasses, scrumptious food, and loving fellowship. Don't delay. Do it today. Go to padntg.com and join us at Celebrating Our Soul, consciously creating change. See you there.
All right, we are back. And we're going to start our series of stories about amazing dogs. This dog saves foster parents from fire, finds forever home a day later. A Great Pyrenees saved his foster family from a fire on their houseboat and had just been with the family for 48 hours. And he was just being fostered, until the next day when the paperwork was coming in, when this dog named Moose was going to be going to his forever home with another family. And they had really been enjoying fostering Moose and knew that he was being adopted the next day. And so they wanted one more night with Moose before he went to his new home. And they spoiled him that day with an ice cream pup cup visit to the park, a chicken sandwich. And then they decided to keep him on their houseboat that night rather than bring him back to the shelter from where he had come from in the foster process. Well, that night, their houseboat caught fire and the impromptu sleepover guest potentially saved all 5 of that family. Moose was hailed as a hero, and they followed through the paperwork the following day. However, the new family and home wasn't right fit for the big athletic dog. And so the beauty of this story is that that foster family were able to bring Moose into their home and express their gratitude back by loving on him as part of their family. Awesome. Dogs are so amazing. And here is another story of another amazing dog. This dog that wouldn't stop digging saves the entire neighborhood after they find a dangerous gas leak underneath. And I love how this story opens. It would have made front page news around the country. A quiet Philadelphia neighborhood exploding suddenly into flames days before Christmas. But because of a clever dog with a heck of a nose, it's only making news on the Good News Network. So what happened is a gas leak was detected underground by Kobe, a 4-year-old husky owned by a woman named Miss Bell, who trusted her intuition and listened to Kobe's warning. Having moved into the home rather recently, Belle noticed Kobe was digging the same spot in the yard after hour. And she didn't think much of it as he's an avid digger. But when, as it got larger and larger, she took notice, trusted her judgment because it wasn't his typical nature, and she knew something was up. She had had a gas leak in the house earlier in December, and seeing that the hole went under the sidewalk, trusted her intuition, took out the gas detection device, and immediately the reading detected gas. Turns out, after she alerted the authorities and they checked in, they told her it was not just gas, but a potentially cataclysmic amount of gas. Not only could it have caused serious health effects, like respiratory issues, brain damage, and even death, but they said something as simple as the light switch turning on could have caused an explosion. And this explosion, they said, could have affected their neighborhoods because they found that neighbors' houses, that the age pipes were leaking in 3 places, and it could have been disastrous. Awesome. Way to go, Kobe. Listen to these amazing dogs. One more dog story. I love it. And this one is helping humans. Love, love, love this, who have PTSD. So right now they have 2 dogs who have been trained to sniff out the post-traumatic stress by smelling survivor's breath with a 90% accuracy. That's pretty amazing. Scientists say the breakthrough will make post-traumatic stress disorder support dogs more effective. PTSD is a mental health condition triggered by a terrifying event such as car crash or terror attack or something traumatic. Symptoms that include flashbacks, nightmares, and some severe anxiety, as well as uncontrollable thoughts about the event. Dogs' sensitive noses already can detect the early warning signs of medical situations such as seizures, and now they have trained in this pilot study these 2 dogs to decipher the breath of people who have been reminded of the traumas by recognizing the scent, of the trauma reaction, therefore being able to alert when they smell it on their breath. So I'm skimming down because I'm looking at the time. I'm new at this and I'm reading probably too much. Anyway, the scientists recruited 26 people as scent donors who were taking part in the study, and over half the patients met the diagnostic. And what they found, and that's where they got the 90%, and what they said made it really fun and easy for the dogs is their limitless appetite for delicious treats was an asset, and it made it much harder to convince them to take a break than to commence work. And so anyway, again, just in the beginning, but how powerful to have support dogs, service dogs that can really help people. And obviously when that alert happens, being there to help that person stop what's going on or get help right in that moment. So way to go, dogs. This is going to be a short little grouping of 3, and I have a quick commercial coming up for, oh goodness, I lost this one too. All right, we're going to go with the men's summit because I'm not seeing the other one anymore. I will be right back, and we'll share a final grouping of news stories and our hero of the day.
The New Thought Men's community proudly presents New Thought Men's Summit, Foundations, an online conference, September 22nd through 27th. Register today at www.newthoughtmens.community, featuring 22 New Thought speakers, ministers, and visionaries, sharing their wisdom of modern spiritual masculinity. New Thought Men's community. Empowering wholeness, centered in spiritual living.
Awesome. Welcome back. We're in the home stretch of the Good News Network. And right now I want to highlight again the power of heart, the power of taking action. Families in, missed the S on that. Families in tiny Texas town have adopted 77 hard to adopt kids inspired by their Baptist church leaders. And on the 4th of July, over 2,000 theaters across America ran the film adaptation of this incredible true story, The Sound of Hope, the story of Possum Trot. And it recounts how the voice of God led a pastor and his wife to adopt 2 children and then to convince the congregation in the town church to follow their lead. And regardless of the fact it wasn't a large community, 77 children found families within 23 households of Possum Trot, Texas. And even though this has been shared earlier, it was this film that really recounted the heart of the pastor and his family and the community. And why it's important to him is that the foster system in America is ground zero for most of the childhood trauma in America. Also for child trafficking and a primary driver of both the prison population and homelessness. And his belief, and I love this, and this is part of why I want to share this message. He said, I think about how many children are in the system, and I believe if every church were focused on just 2 or 3 children and getting them out of foster care and into a home, they would fix the system just like that. So if you haven't seen it already, go look for the movie Sound of Hope, the story of Possum Trot. And who knows, maybe you could share with your community, your church. Maybe there's families in there that could bring in a child and change their life forever. Awesome. Our next story is another story of using social media for good, getting the word out, right? All of these stories, except for the mushroom one so far, are about community. It's about sharing the message. It's one person with heart, with an idea, and gathering resources of other people and funds together. So this one, another social media influencer is Spencer, the owner of SB Mowing. He has a TikTok and YouTube channels, and it documents his hobby of finding people who can't mow their lawns and doing it for them. With a combined following of 15 million people, it's a demonstration of showing that kindness pays. And in Corpus Christi, Spencer was fighting back on a terribly overgrown yard when he found a little tabby who looked like he'd gotten in a fight, and he wanted to get it some help. So he called rescue centers, and the one that reached back out was Edgar and Ivy's cat sanctuary and rescue. Now this sanctuary, it was struggling. Director Anissa Beale had decided she was going to call it quits at the year's end if she couldn't manage to turn things around. Well, Spencer dropped into her lap, saw how much passion and heart she had in helping people and helping animals. And he gave them all the cash that he had on hand, and also said, I've got a large social media following and I'm going to set up a GoFundMe account. Well, she didn't think much of it, but in a matter of days, the fundraiser shot up to $190,000 in private donations, catapulting Edgar and Ivy's cat rescue mission out of debt. And then it just kept going. And so in the end, she has dedicated the mission's new building to Spencer and gave it the name SB Mowing Wellness and Recover Center for Cats. And SB, as well as other cats, are getting taken care of, adopted, and finding their forever homes because of one man's kindness and sharing, and well, not one man's, hers, and you know what I'm trying to say, the cumulative effect of all of it together. And here's another beautiful story of the value of social media. This poor dog, he was in his forever home, but circumstances didn't allow them to keep him. And poor Max was given back to the shelter. Well, thanks to social media, an old friend saw him on TikTok, went in, and was able to adopt him. And you can see how poor, sad, and terrified little Max was in the beginning, and how he is now that his friend that he knew for over 8 years brought him into their home and adopted. And the Pennsylvania SBA says, thank you to everyone who rallied for Max and his old friends who have turned into his new family. So, right, the power of sharing your message and the power of passing on. All right, now, whoops, got ahead of myself here. I'm not really good at, at the advertising thing, but here is the story of our heroes of the day. 3 brave 11-year-old girls. And we are sharing the hero of the day because it was a joint effort. And this story comes from Kent, Washington. In a remarkable display of courage and quick thinking, 3 11-year-old girls stopped the potential kidnapping of their 6-year-old neighbor. The heroic actions of these young girls have garnered praise from the Kent Police Department and the local community. The incident occurred around an apartment complex when an ice cream truck had attracted numerous children to the area, when the 3 preteens noticed an adult man gripping the wrist of their young neighbor. The 6-year-old's brother called for her, but she was unable to break free. But the 3 girls, they kept paying attention. They observed her fear and heard her pleading with the man to let her go, prompting them to follow and intervene. Without hesitation, the girls began recording the situation on their phones, confronted the man, and eventually, because of the confrontation, the man put the child down and attempted to flee. Thank goodness, the girls quickly took the child back to her apartment, ensuring her safety. And following that, and a call to 911 from another witness, the police were able to take that stranger into custody and reward and support these 3 11-year-olds for their bravery. Wow. Power of telling your kids to pay attention. And I love it that the 3 11-year-olds were together, and together they bonded and they questioned, right? They paid attention. They watched the face of that young 6-year-old and saved her. So that is our last story of the day. Thank you so much for joining me here on And Now the Good News here on New Thought Media Network. I forgot to introduce us in the beginning, but we are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, entertainment, and more. Positive news also is perfect for sharing. So find us on Facebook, find us on YouTube. If you're looking for other ways to serve and support you in a positive way, go look at all of our programming on relationship, on joy, on health, on prosperity, on grief, on the amazing power of joy, just one you. And like, share, subscribe, share with your friends, and come back often. And if I can figure this out, I will close us out. Have a great rest of your Friday or whenever you are watching. Where is it?
Please help us say thank you to our organizational sponsors, including the Hefferland Foundation, Affiliated New Thought Network, International New Thought Alliance, Science of Mind Archives and Library Foundation, Center for Spiritual Living Denver, Center for Spiritual Living Midtown, New Thought Philadelphia, Planned Happiness Institute, Summit Center for Spiritual Living, One Heart Retreats, Center for Spiritual Living on the Lake, Unity Kitchener, Unity Spiritual Center Ottawa, Om Center for Spiritual Living, Satya Center, Begin Within Ministries, Center for Spiritual Living North Jersey, Unity of Savannah, and the Center for Spiritual Living Seattle, as well as all of our individual donors. Thank you for being part of the New Thought Media Network. Please like, share, and subscribe. New Thought Media Network, positively inspiring.